The next thing we need to do is execute. And you mentioned it before, focus. So sometimes, and this is incredibly subjective, and don't forget, you answer to no one except yourself. So it's hard. But like sometimes you can have the hours in the day to do what you needed to get done, but you were not focused. So it's like it might have been the phone was ringing off the hook. It might be your social media addiction. It might be the fact that you went surfing. It might be the fact that you skated in the middle of the day because the sun was out. It might be the fact that you ended up on, like some task took you a lot longer than we thought. So you want to execute. The best way to execute is to set some times against a task. So that quote is going to take me 45 minutes. That quote is going to take me an hour. That's going to take me 2 hours, and sort of box it out in your day. Now, the best way to execute for me is every day as a electrician, as a tradie, brings its own stuff. So you can probably book out of an admin's day, 5 out of 8 hours, depending if they're answering the phone or not. You can probably book out of your day 6 hours instead of the 8 because you're going to get phone calls from staff, phone calls from clients, important emails come through. But if we can execute, we might look at it and be like, okay, social media, I check once between 11:30 and 12. Or emails I check 3 times a day. I'm going to set my day up from the start and close it out. We want to make sure we're sort of executing. Are we achieving what we need to achieve? That is the execution point. So it's like, and if not, do my priorities need to change, or do I need to actually just get stuff done now? Huge thoughts on executing.
Yeah, it's a big one
It's
because
subjective, isn't it?
it's the doing. It's very subjective, but I 100% agree with you. Is the realization, understanding, expectation, probably reality around it all is the number of hours within your day that you have to actually execute as well. So I think being realistic about things, I genuinely feel also plays a massive role into your ability to feel accomplished, completed, having an understanding overall of like, hey, we're going on the right path. Because if you go to execute and you're like, that's going to take me 15 minutes, and it takes you an hour, and then so you're 45 minutes behind straight away, and then the next focus point that you're on is, oh, it's going to take me an hour and it takes you two. So we're just essentially kicking the can down the road, and then you build up all this angst and stress upon yourself from just not being realistic as well. So the execution part of it has a massive influence on it. So if it's like, hey, I've got invoices to do, that's going to take me 4 hours to do. You get it done in two, right, sweet, I'm 2 hours ahead now. So you can then bring forward your next task, and you might have an allocation for an hour to do it, and you get done within that hour. So you've still got another hour of time up your sleeve now that you can bring in, say, another particular task that's on the list that wasn't planned to be done. However, you've brought it forward a day, for example. So I think it's really important to understand around the execution, the time that's taken to do it. And I think for me personally, a way to execute really well is identifying that task that needs to be done, the prioritization of it as well. But now the execution onto it is like, do I actually really need to be doing that to whatever nth degree it needs to be done? Is that just a, hey, communication? So the execution part of it is, I need you to do this for me, please. Or, hey, I need this information. Or a perfect example could be, I need to gather this information from site. So instead of you going to site to gather that information, you communicate with someone who is on site with them. And that may mean they're not actually on site until Wednesday. So now that's a Wednesday task. It's like, hey, just a heads up, Robbo, on Wednesday morning, we're going to communicate as soon as you get there to get through this information, or could be some kind of communication around that. But execution's key, because if you don't set some realistic expectations, you're always going to fall short, and you're always going to create this realm, which is where I sort of touched on, if I go back one step around the prioritization of things. If you're prioritizing 50 tasks, you're always going to be feeling like you're never achieving it. Whereas if you set down 5 tasks for the day and you tick them off, I would love to hear any feedback anyone has on this or any thoughts around it. The difference between accomplishing those 5 tasks and adding on two more, as opposed to just going down a list and going check, 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 and like the never-ending list side of things. Because I think we also do need to reward ourselves, like give ourselves a little pat on the back sort of thing, like an accomplishment, because it's like a human psyche sort of thing. So that's where I think about the execution. I think also too, with the execution side of things is, do you have all the tools available to you set up in the best possible way to execute? And probably this is where somewhere I'm really passionate around is, so like job management, for example. Is your job management system set up in a way that it allows you to execute with speed, I guess, is probably the easiest way, or execute it to the standard that you expect and you want, because it's doing the tasks that don't need to be done automatically or getting you the information. So I think that's really important to understand, that utilizing the tools that you have available to you, or the subscription that you have available to you, are you using them to their full potential? Or it's not always about like, I'm redlining it to be like, we're using every single feature on there. Are you just using it to the degree or to the requirement that you need to get the outcomes that you're looking for? And if that's not the case, you need to have a look at like, well, what do we need to do? And often, I'm going to be perfectly honest, it's like an hour of maybe some setup to get it all sorted, or an hour and a half, or bits and pieces like that.
Yeah, so the most common thing with that is like a price book setup. And I think people get so overwhelmed with the price book setup. But if you just built your price book as you went on the go, in a month you'd have 100 items,
Yeah.
and then you'd have, if you measure, you have some details on those items, and then you'd be like, oh, let's change that, tweak that, do this. So execute, huge one. Now we want to. So once we've planned, our sort of times and our day, our week, got some structure. Now we're prioritizing. What do we need to fit in there? Now we're executing with focus. That's a goal. Now we want to reflect. Is absolutely huge. We want to reflect. Like, what can we do better? Great example here is a couple of thoughts I've got. Is there certain times that suit certain tasks? So if you want your invoices to go out every single Monday afternoon, you're going to want to tie them up Monday morning. A lot of times, certain tasks are better off done with a coffee in hand in the morning rather than the afternoon. Now, everyone knows that the afternoon between 2 and 4 is usually a bit of rejigging on tomorrow. And there's like phone calls back and forth, especially if you've got a team and clients that, hey, we can't make tomorrow, we've got to push that back to this point, or hey, we've got to come back here. The most important job is the one you're at. So when you're looking at, anyone that's woken up at 6 o'clock and go, holy crap, I've got to be in 3 places in 90 minutes or 60 minutes. It's like,
And they're all deck calls.
yeah. I was like, no, but okay, what happened? It went wrong yesterday. So yesterday I dropped the ball. I worked till 6 o'clock and I forgot to make those. I forgot I booked that job in. I mean, I don't know anyone that hasn't got a phone call with like, oh, what time are you coming? You're like, I forgot about you. Like anyone that's probably like a non-negotiable to happen to put you in a spot where you might need help. You might need to hire someone, or you might need to hire an admin, whatever. But like working out, is there something you can do a bit better? So great example on the schedule. Is there a toolbox talk every single Monday morning for 15 minutes on Zoom or whatever between the crew? You can be like, hey, you're going here, here, and here. And if you finish early, go across there. Or, hey, we're focusing up on this week. The most important job is the one you're at. And, make sure, hey, at that point, you're going to see this and this and get that. You're just looking like, what can you do better? What's the 15 minutes you can use, or 20 minutes to save 2 or 4 hours, right? You're looking at accomplishing versus accomplishing well. So it's one thing to have your quote sent out. It's another thing to call upon sending and make sure that it's sent out well. So too often, I think with busy business owners, you're just literally sending something out or getting a task done to its bare bones, bare minimum. And it's like fitting a PowerPoint off and not testing it. That's the best example. So sending a quote without a phone call is ridiculous. Like, it should work. Yeah, it might work. But let's guarantee it works, or let's give ourselves the best shot at that working, right? If the phone's ringing absolutely hot sometimes, you might want to work out what you can get rid of at that point. Do you need to get billable project managers on at your team? Do you need to get an admin? At what point do you need to take that phone call from your friend who's going to complain about business for 60 to 90 minutes every single day? Maybe, maybe not. But some of the times our pain is self-inflicted. And other times, like I know this is my sort of story. I remember going to my site visit day was, let's say, Tuesday. I drive around to 8 sites and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll get that quote back to you this afternoon. Get that quote back to you this afternoon. Get that quote back to you this afternoon. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that. Get home in the afternoon. I'll get back to the office. And all of a sudden, the afternoon happens. You're rescheduling tomorrow, looking at things, getting phone calls, bits and pieces. Your quote takes 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks to get out. Some you land, some you've missed completely. And then some you land. Yeah, yes, some have been completed by someone else. And some you get the quote, but you forget that anomaly because you're quoting it a week or a week and a half late, or 3 days late, or tomorrow instead of this afternoon. And you're like, holy crap, I forgot that we had to get that across at that point. I forgot the material. I forgot that needed an extra 4 hours on top of our price book. I forgot that was actually a lot more difficult than it looked. Why? And then I remember just being so frustrated at myself and going like, okay, if I just get the quote out on site, if it's possible, that's going to save myself a world of pain. So all of a sudden now I was like, yeah, look, I'm just going to go sort of do the quote now. Go do the quote. Especially helps if you've got a price book or a good quoting structure. And it especially helps if you're collecting photos and collecting job details and all that kind of stuff. So what's happened, my reflection of like, how come I'm losing that job? How come we've got no work? How come we've got this? Oh, it's self-inflicted, right? I'm stabbing myself in the leg and then complaining my leg's sore. So maybe if I just like improve the system or process, right? So quote out on time or on site. So do I need data to get from like do I need a quote of something third party? Sweet. Well, I can't get the quote back now, but I'm going to get that price here. And this is huge, but I think so often too many people are waiting for a price, whether it's on CCTV or something, like a switchboard or whatever. All we're going to do is make that phone call, send that email. Hey, I need that price. And it's going to come back to us in a week or a day or whatever. Too many people don't make that phone call to get that third party price they need or don't organize it. And then in a week's time, you're under pressure to get the quote out, but you don't have the data you need to collate the quote. So now it's like you sort of shot yourself in the foot. So just make sure you're sort of like, so many of us are putting our shoes on. We're just not doing the laces up. So just make sure you're doing the laces up, and whether that's a final phone call to make sure the quote has received and it's received well, or whether that's a final, get the quote out on site or get some more details. I think just not leaving the stones unturned and making sure you're doing it on the go. And if that's something, sometimes that's as simple as like, hey, instead of allowing half an hour for a site visit, I'll allow an hour. And that takes so much pressure off your day and puts so much emphasis on product and doing what you do well. And we all know excellence is doing what you do well and doing it with a good attitude. So just like takes pressure off. But I think, yeah, that's my theory with reflection. Like, what can you do that's going to be 15, 20, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 4 hours, that's going to take a lot of pressure off your week? Greatest example is if you need an admin, you got to spend 3 days training them. Once you do that, you just inherited 3 days back every week for the rest of the year. Great example, if you're under the pump and need labor, so maybe you can take 2 days off and hire. I know it sounds crazy, but now whether you've got a subby coming on board or whether you've got like an employee coming on board, that 2 days, that's 16 hours, right? And it's not going to be 2 days, but go with me. It's 16 hours. Yes, it puts you under short-term pressure, but that's hopefully going to relieve you 40 hours every single week. So it's like too often, I think you just got to do what has to be done, and you can only do that by reflection. So if you do what has to be done, that's going to give you the greatest sort of like long-term relief. Too often we're just after that short-term relief. But I think if you can plan a little bit and prioritize and execute and reflect, you'll be cooking.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Big brand.
So for me, reflecting, having a look at it, it gives you the opportunity to, I guess, criticize, I guess reflect obviously is the key word there too, but gives you an opportunity to look back on what happened that day, that week. Right. I think the more frequently you do it, the I guess, more outcomes that you can look to achieve that are going to be beneficial to your business. So give yourself an opportunity to just spend some time each day being and looking back and give some self-reflection and be self-critical of, hey, what went well, what didn't go well. The thing that I like by doing that is you go back to number one immediately and you then get to plan for the next day or for the next week what needs to happen. Now, yeah, I'm a realist. I understand it might not happen every single day. It might be, hey, we're doing some reflection first up in the morning to then move on to planning for the day. I don't think you should skip this stage though. It gives you an opportunity to plan, which I want to repeat there because I think it's really important because then you go into a day with some organization. The other one is it gives you an opportunity to make improvements. Hey, what needs to be improved? What did we suck at today? And it's like I'll use your example of the quoting. Like I spent all this time going around to all these jobs and I didn't get a single quote out. And it's like, okay, am I better off going to one or two less sites or jobs, for example, or meetings, whatever you want to call them, quotes, however you want to dress it up. Am I better off going to one or two less? And as I finish there, get the quote done while I'm on site, or get it to a stage that you're waiting for information to come back in, or it just needs a polish. So examples around that is you use the contractor, hey, I need to get a price for that particular CCTV install. The other one I look at is like, I need to get a price for that particular part. So I've got some contactors to change over and some overloads. I know how long it's going to take me, right? I'm pretty confident in that part. I have no idea how much the parts are. So it's like, hey, bang, have the photos, send an email off to your supplier. There's a fair chance it's going to be sitting in your inbox by tomorrow morning. I'm going to say absolute latest. And if that doesn't happen, you find yourself another wholesaler too. That's a story for another day. But give you an opportunity to make some improvements of what went well and what didn't. I'm going to say the quoting side of it, if you're not getting the key information together on site at the very, very minimum, so that either someone else can perform the task or get it together, or that it's, a bow's being so you're putting the bow on it at the end, you need to have a look at your process around. So if you can't get it 100% sent off, or to a level that you're just putting the bow on it when you get back into the office or in a day or 48 hours later when those costs come back in, you need to have a look at the process. So this is where I really think about the improvement part of it comes into what can we improve to make things better. And the last one I like around the reflection side of it is gives you an opportunity to communicate. So if you're doing it each day, you've got the chance to communicate to be, hey, just letting you know that quote, it'll be sent out Thursday morning. So sorry, I know I told you today. I'm just waiting on this information from my supplier. Bang, sent. Oh, I didn't get to speak to so and so. Let's call them now. Bang, give them a call. Have the conversation with what you wanted to have with them. Oh, hey, we're not going to make it to that job on Thursday, like we said, Robbo. We're going to be there Friday morning, but instead of the two boys coming, I've got four guys coming. So it allows you to go home without having those conversations, without the open-endedness around it. Another thing that's really easy is like, oh, hey, I've got 3 or 4 phone calls to make. Cool, too easy. Tidy up everything you need to do. Just make those phone calls in the car on the way home. So then when you cruise into the driveway, so it's like double efficiency. You're not using the time as dead time to be driving. I will say other people do enjoy getting it all done, putting a bow on it, and they unwind by maybe listening to Sparky Coach podcast, for example, on the way home.
Shout out to Sparky Coach podcast.
So that's pretty much it around the reflection. It gives you a chance to reflect, plan, improve, and then make those phone calls, emails, or have the conversation so you're not open-ended. And I'm going to say, as a whole, if you just communicate really well, I'm going to say you eliminate 90% of problems. Like, so if you just say, hey, mate, that quote's coming tomorrow now. Hey, we're just waiting on some information. Hey, we're going to get there Friday. You've left the unknown. There's no, that the person who's expecting the information, the quote, the job, the attendance, whatever it is, you've given them the communication of it all. And I'm going to say, guilty as charged, is I reckon it's the first thing that goes when you get super busy.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think that for a lot of times the thing that goes when you get really busy are the things you actually need. That additional TLC, getting back to people at work or measuring the numbers or closing the month or closing the job or closing the week, like all that stuff's so easy to forget about. And I think it's just like the reflection point. You know, you'd be better off booking in 15 minutes in your day to stop, collaborate, and listen, Vanilla Ice style, and be like, what happened today? And too many people's businesses happen to, like, I don't know the best way to say it, but the business just like takes over you rather than you taking over it. It's just you need to sort of step back and be like, where's the space where you pull yourself back and look at your business and be like, what could have gone better this week? What could have gone better this month? And you know, even just like flashback to our workbook, people that are actually sort of entering the data we need, it increases their net profit 5 to 10% without even trying. They're not even like, they're just doing it as they go. Like it, but that's something that's a major component that's going to move a major needle forward, net profit. That takes 30 minutes a day. Is that worth it? 100%, right? It doesn't have to be you, it can be someone else. But just working out if you're in the right spot or not, and trying to slow yourself down enough to be like, am is a lot of times your job isn't sustainable. That might be a season, but if the season's been 2 years, it's too long a season. You know, you need an off season. You need to be like, okay, I'm going on a long weekend. You'd be better off taking a long weekend and planning the future and being like, that's not sustainable. Here's my boundaries. I'm going to plan, I'm going to prioritize, I'm going to execute, I'm going to reflect, and I'm going to boost it. So much of my life changed when even like the little thing like the schedule might take 2 hours on a Friday. All the phone calls get made to all the different sites. We're coming on Thursday, we're coming on Friday. When's that chip rocket coming? When's this happening? What's happening here? Do I have that part? So now you're looking at a well-oiled machine, and a lot of us don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to oil the existing one. A lot of us don't need like a new bike. We've just got to take care of the current bike we've got. If you don't know the metaphor I'm sharing, it's a lot of you don't need a new business. You just need to tighten the screws up on your existing one. So huge. But yeah, I think your time is too precious to be average. Your time is too precious not to be executing properly. Your time is too precious not to just grab the bull by the horns and just wrangle this thing into submission. Work out if you're in the right spot. Work out what you need to do to execute properly, and plan and prioritize your way into an effective schedule. Nice. It's my
Love it.
wrap up.
Love it. It's good. Perfect. Enjoy. Have a great day. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.
See you, mate.